What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to a Social Matrix podcast. I am your host, Armin, and today we have a special guest here with us. Her name is Armida Abrio. She's an experienced life and relationship coach. Armida, please take it away. Tell us who you are, what you represent, what you do, and then we'll jump right into the topic.
I love that. Thank you so much for having me, Armin. It's an honor to be here and to share a little bit of my story and my passion with you and your guest. So, I am a life and relationship coach, and I became a life and relationship coach in 2020 due to my own transformation. I was my first client. I had a spiritual awakening in 2019 that really catapulted me into my awakening and really connecting with myself and being able to take my power back. Before my spiritual awakening, I realized I was giving my power away to people, places, and things. And so I felt helpless and hopeless because in order for me to feel happy, I needed to try to control and manipulate those things. And when I let go of that and I was able to just focus on myself and nurture myself and accept myself and love myself unconditionally, I took my power back. I realized I no longer needed validation from anyone else. And I realized like the freedom that I got from it. And not only that, how all of my relationships had improved and no one in my life had done any work except for me. I was the common denominator. So I was like, that was like a huge aha moment for me. And I realized, like, wow, we struggle in relationships. And we came here to be in collaborationship and in collaboration and relationships with other people. And we tend to struggle so much because we want to control and manipulate. And when we realize, like, when we are authentic and when we tap into our own true nature, and we show up in our life from that energy, all those relationships improve because now there's vulnerability, there's acceptance, there's unconditional love. That doesn't mean we don't set boundaries. That doesn't mean we enable people because all that is part of that process. But it was like, wow, so many of us struggle in relationships. And I remember like that was an aha moment for me that I was like, I felt like pulled towards doing the work that I do because that's what I'm here on a mission to serve 1 million lives a week by helping them improve the quality of their lives and their relationships by overcoming the beliefs and the stories that are holding them back.
Mm. Wow, that is incredible. I love how you mentioned that it sounded like you dated yourself first before you opened up, to extend to others. Wow,
Yeah.
you don't hear that often. That is really powerful. Now, what made you want to take a leadership role and become a coach? Was there like something distinct? You mentioned a few things, but was there anything specifically? Because you could have just lived your life as is with all this knowledge. But what was it that made you decide I need to become a coach and help others?
Gosh, going through that process really connected me to my purpose. And I feel like once you connect to your purpose, you get pulled. It's like this pull, internal pull
Mm.
towards doing the work that you can't overlook. It almost feels like the next thing that you're like, it's like a no-brainer, like the next thing that you need to do. Never in my life did I think I was going to be a coach. I didn't think I had the skills. I never thought I had the knowledge. I never aspired to be one. However, my transformation inspired me to be one. I feel like I found what I was meant to do in this world. I know it sounds kind of corny because we all kind of say that, but it's true. We feel like a lot of us are searching for a purpose and we're searching outside of ourselves. And our purpose is not outside of ourselves. If we become curious enough to take the time to get to know ourselves, to date ourselves, to love ourselves unconditionally, your purpose automatically happens because up until that transformation, I had no idea this was what I was going to be doing. And now it's the only thing I could think of doing because it's become kind of my guiding light in life.
Wow. That is wow. I'm speechless. Now, is your clientele mostly women, men, or is there like a specific t type of person that you will coach?
I love that. So I do coach men and women and couples. I work with couples as well, which I absolutely love. And I do, though, mostly target to women because as you know, in the business world, if you're marketing to everyone, if you're talking to everyone, you're talking to no one. And I'm very open to possibilities and I believe in energy. And so I always set my intentions that the people that are meant to work with me are going to find me. I enjoy working with both. I've had great success working with men and women and working with couples. So I enjoy all of it, but I do mostly target to women.
Mm. Now, I love that you narrowed things down to
Yeah.
one specific individual. In your line of work, have you noticed like a distinct difference between men and women when you're working with them? Like, is there a common factor between both of them that speaks out to you?
Yeah, so I think with everyone, and I'll say it's that I feel like after when I first started doing coaching, I had to do practice hours. And during my practice hours, I did coach men and women. And what narrow after doing, I had to do 30 coaching sessions. I can't remember, 20 or 30 coaching sessions. I don't remember right now, but um, before I could get my certificate to do the coaching, right? Because I knew what changed me, but I kind of needed a blueprint. And I remember like I had this aha moment. It was right after like I had done about half of the sessions. And I realized like no matter if I was meeting with a man or a woman, the belief was that they weren't good enough. No matter what their experience, their trauma was, no matter what they were sharing with me, the stories they had created, although different stories, all led to a root of not feeling like they were good enough, not feeling like they were worthy of love, not accepting themselves. Because if you don't think you're good enough, you're gonna be hesitant to accept love. And I say that also saying that because women, we tend feminine energy. I feel like I'm gonna talk in energy, right? Because I feel like men and women, it's that masculine energy and that feminine energy, right? And even same-sex relationships, you need a feminine energy and a masculine energy in order for them to be attraction between them. So a lot with the women, if we want to go with the women feminine energy, we tend to be the nurturer. So we tend to be the chaser in relationships, the one that wants to save, the ones that wants to, we're looking for validation. We don't feel like we need to work for love. And masculine energy is more like the leader. Masculines are taught from, I mean, we're all taught, but it's even rougher for men to not feel their emotions. So they tend to shut down. So when I work with couples, I'm finding the balance of having the feminine energy learn how to self-soothe so that she can nurture herself, ground herself without chasing, and then having the chasing energy lean in um, to connect with with the feminine energy. So it's a dance of leaning in and pulling out depending where you're coming from. And if you're the feminine energy, you have to really like learn how to stand, like not be codependent on your partner, right? For them to soothe you and looking for that validation, you give that to yourself first and you create a space for then the masculine energy to feel safe to lean in. So I think that's the bigger difference. It's that one tends to kind of the real masculine energy tends to kind of be more shut down, more avoidant, if we want to say, and the feminine energy more like lean in energy, wanting to chase. And the magic happens in the middle, right? We don't want to be in either one of the spectrum because it creates chaos. And when we can both lean into the middle, and that means nurturing both of our feminine and masculine energies because we all have it. That's what creates balance in the relationship when you can tap into your masculine and your feminine and bring that balance.
Wow, I'm not gonna lie, I was taking notes, okay, in my mind as you were talking. I've done this podcast a million times, not this specific one, but just podcasts, and I've spoken to a lot of coaches in my time. And you were the first person to ever not only articulate it so well, but to even mention the masculine and feminine between people.
Mm.
Um, when you talk about chaos, could you go more deeper into that? What does that look like? And does that ultimately does that sabotage relationships? And yeah, if we could go deeper into that.
Absolutely. So chaos looks like with us not nurturing and accepting ourselves and leaning in to for somebody else to save us, right? So when the feminine energy feels disconnected from the masculine energy. They want to chase because they're looking for validation. They want love. They want to feel reassurance that things are, that they don't want to lose that love and that connection. So what that does is then they chase the masculine who's feeling kind of shut down and avoidant, and that scares them. So that further disconnects them because now they're both in survival mode trying to soothe themselves, but they can't because there's not a safe space to do so.
Mm,
Uh, and so when the feminine energy, I always say this in relationship, this is, and I have to stop and share this because it's so powerful. When I started to do this work, and what I realized is that, I love working with couples, and it's amazing when both people can show up and do the
mm,
work.
mm,
And with that, I say that it takes one person in the relationship to shift the
mm,
energy for the relationship to shift and change, right?
mm,
So that's how much power we have and how much we are connected to each other energetically. So when we're both coming from fear because we're not grounded in our energies, then what we do is we need validation, we create codependency, and from that, if we don't learn how to self-soothe ourselves, then
mm,
we're always codependent from each other. And so we're always pointing the fingers and being victims, right?
mm,
And if we're a victim, when we can't take accountability for our behavior, we gotta point the finger because you need to fix something in order for me to feel happy, and you need to change in order for me to feel happy. And then we're always gonna be miserable and in pain because now we're outsourcing our happiness to other people, and other people are meant to be
mm.
lessons and mirrors for us and how we can grow so that we can take accountability of ourselves, because that's where our power stands, and from that power you get to empower other people to step up and level up and meet you there.
Mm. Wow. You're so articulate. I love it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, in your line of work, have you worked with somebody who they are kind of like struggling with their masculine and feminine, and they're in some way, I can't think of the exact wording, but in some way, like over the years, they keep falling back into the cycle again without being able to actually kind of like work on this wound that they're having. Have you had an
Mhm.
individual who experienced this? And also, what did you do to help them out to finally be able to balance the feminine and masculine?
Yes, for sure. I'm going to use the female as an example of feminine energy because I do mostly work with females, even though
Mhm,
I do work with both. But it's women, right? Women who are in their masculine, because women before we were so
mhm,
prohibited from doing so much, right? We couldn't own a house. We couldn't have a bank account. We couldn't be CEOs.
mhm,
We didn't even have rights over our bodies. Like we were really told by what to do, and we didn't have freedom. And so now women, we're doing amazing things. We're CEO, we're leaders, we're running our own businesses. We're also, in a marriage a lot of times, or in a relationship, and we have families, and we have so much that we have become leaders on, which is amazing, right? But we have to learn in our relationships. If we want to have a thriving relationship and you want to be in your feminine energy, you have to learn how to dance with your masculine, right? So
mhm,
you have to learn to be, okay, I'm a leader, I'm a CEO when I'm running my business, when when I'm at work, right? When I'm leading. Yet in my relationships, in my intimate relationships, leaning into that femininity of you're allowing your masculine to lead, right? And for you to be that supportive energy who allows your masculine to lead. And the beautiful thing is that you're both leading because your energy is inspiring
mhm,
the masculine to show up for you, right? And so what we don't realize is that by allowing them to lead from that energy, it's not that they're going to make all the decisions. No, it's the opposite. You inspire them to bring you on so that you guys can make decisions together. So it's creating that space because a lot of women who are, working and have successful careers are like really struggling in relationships, and it's because they're bringing that masculine energy to their personal
mhm,
relationships, and relationships with other people as well. And so I feel like with this case, it was just someone I was working with. She was thriving, successful, doing so great things in the world, but she couldn't have that intimacy with a male. She didn't feel safe enough to do that. So we had to work through letting her lean into her feminine energies so that she can have that balance of being able to show up in her relationship in that softness, in that
mm,
trust and energy that inspires a man to give you more, you know?
mm. Wow. And no, that's amazing. I love to hear that. Now, what I can't help to think is that nature versus nurture. So when it comes to the masculine and feminine, in your professional opinion, do like do you believe that when people are born, like let's say for women, when they're originally born, okay, when they're born, do they, is there some kind of an element of, is it possible to be born and to be able to tap into the feminine and masculine in a natured way versus a nurtured way? And throughout life, what happens for this individual to kind of like have an imbalance between the two, if that makes any sense?
Yes, it does. It really does. I
Okay.
feel like so going back, trauma. I
Mm,
think in when we're born, we're whole, we're complete. We don't care how we
mm,
sound when we're babbling. We don't care how we look. We don't care about any of that. We just want to be loved and held and tend to. And I feel like so what happens is we're beings of love and we're born whole. And
mm,
then we experience things in our environment that makes us feel that the world is not safe. And so we start to create walls around our hearts
mm,
and disconnect from our bodies and go into our heads. And then we start creating a world beliefs that then become subconscious belief that keep showing up in your life in all areas like your life, in your relationships, in your careers, and
mm,
in so many different things. The beautiful thing about there's neuroplasticity, so our
mm,
brain can grow and evolve and change, and you absolutely can change. Like it's proven, and it's scientifically proven through quantum physics, and also through like I've been able to see those changes in my clients and in myself, which is the reason why I'm still inspired to do this. If this didn't work, I wouldn't be doing it. I'm excited to do it, and I know I want to do this till the day I die because I know it works.
mm,
And so we get to recreate ourselves when we get to become aware of ourselves.
mm,
Change won't happen if we're not aware of ourselves. And unfortunately, becoming aware of ourselves, we get the little red flags, I don't feel, I'm not maybe
mm,
not feeling unhappy or, things are not going that well. And we get a little bit of pressure, but we're so comfortable living the life that's become a habit for us
mm,
that we don't change. And a lot of times, unfortunately, it takes a really breakdown moment to kind of have you become aware of yourself. Like for me, was realizing that my marriage was falling apart, realizing that I felt disconnected to everyone around me. I had 3 kids, I had a dog, I was surrounded by a lot of people, and I felt so alone and disconnected from myself. And that's what inspired me. So I kind of felt flat on my face because I felt like I'm like, I can't do this anymore. And from that space, I was able to surrender to something bigger,
mm,
and that allowed me to start becoming aware of myself. But nature and nurture, it goes together, and we're not,
mm,
so we could be born a certain way and have a certain personality, but if you become aware of yourself and you choose to create change in your life, you can, because the stories we tell ourselves create our reality. And so
mm,
we have so much power to transform our life. We really are the alchemist of our lives
mm,
and everything that's going on around us. But we feel disempowered when we have unprocessed trauma and beliefs and stories that are keeping us stuck. And here's the thing that's so powerful. It's not the trauma that you experience as a child that's
mm,
affecting you now because you're an
mm,
adult, you're not experiencing that trauma anymore. It's the stories and the beliefs you create about yourself when you're experiencing those traumas that are now shaping your future reality. So if you want to create change and that's what's affecting it, all you got to do is change the stories and the beliefs to create change
mm.
in your life and create transformation.
Wow. Armida, I'm gonna have to probably take your coaching. Okay. You have said so many things that I'm like actively listening, but at the same time, I'm like mentally taking notes. I'm connecting different dots in my own life, like putting them together. Wow. I love what you said about trauma. I've
Yeah,
never heard this in my life. That it's the stories that you're telling yourself because you're not living in that moment anymore.
right.
Wow.
Mhm.
Now, you sound so self-aware. where did this come from, this level of awareness, where you're, because like you're able to, it's like your mind looks like a computer. You're like connecting like all these different, like you're better than ChatGPT, okay? You're connecting like all these different dots together. Um, how did you get to this level of being so aware and more so than like reading books or like being educated in a more like IQ sense? How did your emotional intelligence increase so much? Like how did you drink like an elixir? Like what happened?
I wish. And no, I had to go through the growing pains of connecting to myself. It's funny because I would like to say it's my brain, but it's the
Mm,
wisdom that I tapped into came from me tapping in further into myself
mm,
and really getting to know myself. When I accepted myself, when I allowed myself to feel the pain, right? I was going, and I'll go a little bit, when I was going through the process of going through my spiritual awakening, I was having panic attack, I was having anxiety, I was, really sad. I felt really out of my body and I wanted to numb, right? And then I was like, I know numbing, it's just delaying the process for me. So I just want to sit in the fire. I'm going to sit in the
mm,
fire and I'm going to trust that
mm,
by sitting in the fire, things are going to change for me. It's releasing control and having trust
mm,
um, that something else is out there, right? And so I remember this whole process, I didn't have always have this wisdom because I wasn't always aware of myself and emotionally available for myself. But it was allowing myself to stop dissociating, to sit in my body, to sit in the fire, to feel the pain and to nurture myself through the pain and to shift the stories and the beliefs that kept coming up, that kept bringing up the anxiety and making me feel like I was not good enough, right?
mm,
And that comes, I think one of the biggest things is awareness is the first step to change. And
mm,
then right after is acceptance. I had to
mm,
accept myself fully in the moment,
mm,
release judgment of myself and whatever I was experiencing in the moment so that I could release the energetic hold that it had on me because what we resist persists. And so I feel like allowing myself to be in my body allow me to tap in further into my heart, into my soul, into
mm,
a depths of wisdom that came from that experience that we all have access to when we take the time to get to know ourselves, which is why I said your purpose is not outside of you. Your purpose is you. This is
mm,
what you came here to discover more of yourself. And in that journey and that discovery, it's that you get to then create the life that you want because it'll become obvious to you.
mm. Wow. Did you have like and I'm not taking you any credit from you, okay?
Nope.
Did you have like a mentor or somebody who like led you in, in this direction, or was this like 100% yourself where you just like start connecting these dots together?
No, so I'm going to be completely honest with you. I couldn't have done this by myself. That was
Mm,
why I was in pain and suffering because I felt like I was alone. It was
mm,
opening up to a possibility that something bigger than me was guiding me, was
mm,
protecting me, was loving me, was coming to the
mm,
realization that my heart was beating and I was
mm,
doing nothing consciously to make it beat. That I eat every day, a couple of times a day, and
mm,
my food processes through me, and I don't have to consciously think of that. So something's keeping me alive. There's a reason why I'm here. And it was leaning into that belief and that connection that allowed me to start this process. Definitely, we're not alone. I feel like that's why we feel pain because we feel like we are alone and disconnected, but we're connected. That's such an illusion that we create from our pain and our suffering. We're actually connected to everyone and everything. And so, no, I feel like I opened up. I used to say the universe a lot. Now, within the last year, people can call it universe, can call it God, can call it energy, quantum physics, whatever you want to call it, was tapping into that. That really allowed me to go through this process first and foremost. And then once you connect to something bigger than you and you're real with yourself, the people, the places, the situations that you need for your growth will automatically show up. They say when the student is ready, the teacher appears. That's what happened. I first had to sit in the fire and work on that connection. And then whatever else I needed from my journey became relevant. So, yes, I've worked with mentors. I read a lot of books. I've taken a lot of courses. So, I have done things to help elevate me and further ground what feels right in my soul. But the initial work, it's you connecting to something bigger, having the awareness. accepting it, and then opening up to possibilities.
Hmm. Now, this is really interesting. In my, not just my line of work, but just being in this space of self-development, finding who you are. There's a lot of individuals, and this is mostly from men who they take, really aggressive drugs such as ayahuasca or
Hmm.
something really like some kind of a psychedelic or DMT so they can and by the way, I'm not condoning this. I'm just gonna say
No.
right now, not condoning this.
Yeah.
But people take really hard drugs to be able to like expand their mind, and they skip finding actual mentors or sitting in their, like you mentioned, in their fire. What do you have to say for those individual, and like what's a good way for that person to not have to take this, illicit drugs to be able to, and in the end of the day, that individual doesn't even get to where they want to.
Right.
It's kind of like a temporary, it's like a kind of like a placebo in some way. But what's your take on that, and what can that individual do to not have to take those type of drugs?
Right. So I am all about not not judging anyone to do whatever they feel like they need to do to get to their next level.
Mhm.
My thing is you want to learn, you want to do it in a safe space if you're going to do it. And coaches and mentors are really important because they're mirrors. They can help you see the things that
Mm.
you're not aware that are causing you to have pain and suffering. And on top of that, we need a safe space. I think a lot of our work that we do was feeling heard, seen, and validated. And a coach who's been specially through the journey, right? Who knows what it really takes to transform is going to show up. I tell my clients, like, you're already whole to me. You're whole and complete. There's nothing you can tell me that's gonna let me see you less than I know what you already are. Our work together is to get you to see yourself the way that I see you, right? So it's you removing all the illusion because I know at the core you come from love and you're whole. You're not a half of anything. You're whole and complete and you need to tap into that. I feel like there's a lot of, I know I've seen, because I know I've heard that that's a thing. A lot of people using all of that. And my thing with that is if you're going to do it, get someone to help you integrate whatever comes up for you because integration is really important. Otherwise, we can read a book. How many of us read books, take courses, go to a coach, do, drugs, whatever we need to do to try to work on healing ourselves. Um, and we create no real change because we know things logically, but we haven't allowed in like the physical integration with the knowledge. And a coach can help you do that.
Mm. Love that. Now, in your line of work, you mentioned something really specific. You mentioned, I believe, like, I'm not sure if you use the exact word, but progression or healing. How does someone know they're actually healing versus just I guess I can't think of the wording, but yeah, how does someone know they're healing versus they're just living through life and kind of like repeating the same cycle again?
Right. I love that question because I actually have it's so funny. I use that word because everybody understands it,
Mm,
but I have a hard time using healing because
mm,
healing sounds like there's something wrong with us. And if we need to heal, there's something wrong with us. We're broken, right?
mm,
And I think those are the beliefs that create the trauma because we believe that. So I usually in my when I, I like to say that it's not healing, it's transforming. So
mm,
in a way, you're tapping into yourself, and you start to transform yourself. The things that used to knock you out of balance no longer knock you out of balance. You
mm,
feel more happier, more connected. Your relationships are improving. You have found peace. When I started my journey, I wanted peace. I was like,
mm,
okay, what do I need to do to feel peace? And that's why I allow myself to feel the anxiety, to lean into it, to release judgment of what I was feeling and to become curious,
mm,
right? That's how I started coaching myself. I was like, why am I feeling this way, right? So it's that awareness, that acceptance, and then the curiosity that allow for things my life to start transforming. And so I feel like it's not much about healing because we're not broken.
mm,
It's about discovering more of ourselves. And in that discovery, we realize how powerful we truly are. And then from that peace, freedom, joy, just automatically, it's an effect of that. And I'm saying all of that to say I've been on this journey. This was 2019 when I started my spiritual journey. I started coaching in 2020. And because we came here from growth and evolution, I sometimes get knocked off my feet and I put into
mm,
practice everything that I teach my clients to do. And I tell my clients, like, we're not perfect. We came here for growth.
Mm,
I still sometimes knock off my feet, and I have to always make sure that I'm putting
mm,
into practice and I embody what as I want to show up in the world.
mm. I love that. Now, I love that you mentioned that, you're also, like this is something that you work through as well. Because I feel like a lot of people who look at coaches, I'm gonna pick yourself, okay, because you're like
Mhm. Yeah.
super intelligent. Um, People are gonna look at this and be like, oh, Armida has it all. She's perfect. She's done. The journey is over. Like she has reached the maximum level.
Yep.
What is your take on that? And also, what is your kind of like your daily mental like self-care in because life goes up and down. Some people have BPD, bipolar.
Yeah.
What's your take on that? And what you do or what advice would you give out for individuals who, they want to kind of like not kind of like fall off the wagon?
Okay. I love that. So, yeah, first of all, I am not perfect. And I feel like that's what sets us up for disappointment because when we're kids and we have create stories, we feel like we're not good enough. So we strive for perfectionism. That doesn't exist. If Steve Jobs had waited to have a perfect iPhone, we wouldn't have an iPhone 17 by now, right? Like think about it. So perfectionism sets us up for disappointment and failure. And so no, I'm far from perfect. And I tell my clients all the time, like I make mistakes. It's not if you fall, it's when you fall. You're gonna fall from grace. It's about becoming aware of yourself and in that moment, releasing, accepting it, releasing the judgment and moving forward. That's what gets you through the day, through moment to moment type of thing. So no, I think that's why I'm successful as a coach because I tell my clients like I don't have it all figured out. And if I did, I probably would be dead because I feel like we came here for growth and evolution and there's so many layers to us, right? We're infinite beings. Do you realize how deep we can go with ourselves? So I feel like we can always keep peeling the layers and going deeper and connecting deeper to our soul and ourselves until however long we're here, right? Because we don't even know that. And the daily practices that I like to do to be able to stay grounded is taking life moment to moment. I do have, I do meditate. I do set my intentions for the day. I do work out. Moving energy is really important. Just started lifting weights for the first time in my life last April and I am obsessed. Like I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't. Now I know why people go to the gym and they get hooked to the gym and they're like, that person's a gym rat. Once you start lifting, it's just like I miss it. And actually for someone who's already grounded and I went to the gym feeling happy, feeling content. Like I just went to the gym because I wanted to improve my physical life. And I was like, I want to take this on. Boy, has that helped me tremendously with my even my mental health and I was somebody who's already grounded. So imagine what it can do for someone who needs that extra support. Moving your body create it moves energy and everything is energy. And so I would say doing that and just taking the best advice taking one moment at a time. Right? Because one moment can knock you off your how many of us experience something early on in our day and then the rest of our day it's we're miserable, right? And so life is a moment to moment. The future is an illusion. And when you live in the future is really a present moment for you. So when you realize that all you have is now and that you have a choice, you have a choice. You can feed fear or you can feed love. You can nurture yourself or you can, you know, be miserable and not accept yourself or anyone around you. And so it's a practice of moment to moment being aware of my energy. And I've been in this work long enough that the beautiful thing about this work is once you start doing it, once you scratch that disc, there's no going back. It's like your soul lets you know you're out of alignment. So when I have my moments, right, because I'm, like I said, I'm not perfect and I fall from grace, my soul is like, like I feel heavy, right? I feel that tension in my body. I feel heavy, and I'm aware enough to know there's something, there's a story, there's a belief that is not in alignment to who I am. And then I accept it. I become aware of it. I accept it, and then I become curious. Why am I feeling this way? Or sometimes I can jump right into like, hey, you know what? I know that, whatever belief I just had, because we always have a belief. There's a trigger, and there's a belief
Mm.
usually in a story, and then there's a physical reaction to that.
Mm.
And if we become aware of our physical reaction, you
Oof,
can then apply the trigger, like the trigger break, so that you can then pause and choose what you want to
oof.
feed. You can feed the dark, or you can feed the light.
Mm. Wow. Wow. I have like four more questions based on this, just your response right here. I'm just gonna say all my four things first before I translate into a question. So what you're mentioning is, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, when your body, so like I always believe that body doesn't know right from wrong. We kind of like tell it. However, when we're misaligned, I believe that the nervous system, like you mentioned, like you're so like, hey, 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 you're going out of alignment. It's like our body gives signals to us that we're misaligned with, what's going on. I know you, listen, you said this, okay? And is that where you're going with it when you said when you misalign, your soul's kind of telling you like, hey, come on.
Yep, that's exactly what I meant with it. Yeah, because you become aware of yourselves and you become aware of your stories. And I feel like our hearts were always meant to lead and our mind
Mm,
was supposed to follow. And we do it the
mm,
opposite. Our mind is
mm,
leading and our heart is following. This is why there's no connection. And it's because we experience stuff when we're younger and we tend to disassociate. That's why I said healing comes from being in the body and sitting in the fire. We don't want to
mm,
feel the emotions as a kid or whenever we experience the trauma. We don't want to feel it because we don't have the tools to process it, or we don't have a safe space or someone that can hold that space for us.
mm,
So what we do is, those emotions we disassociate because we don't want to be in our bodies. We don't want to feel it.
mm,
And healing and growth and transformation comes from being in your body. And that's how you really create flow within your soul, is when you can allow your heart and your body to lead. So your body is always, if we listen to us, our bodies are always communicating with us.
mm,
Every time anxiety, depression, any of those emotions that are really heavy and dense are just letting us know that what our stories, our beliefs are not in alignment to who and what we truly are. Otherwise, we wouldn't feel that way. So if we become curious and we stop trying to run from our body, by releasing the judgment, right? It's first like
mm,
having that awareness, releasing the judgment, accepting where you are. I think that's huge, but we tend to judge ourselves and we tend to believe then we create stories like, my body, I'm not, there's something wrong with me, right? A
mm,
lot of us, when our bodies, there's something wrong with me. What does that do? You're judging energy that just feels stuck in your body, that's waiting for you to lean into it with love and compassion and nurture it. So there's a lot of inner child work in the work that I do, allowing people to inner child you. I tell my clients, like, you get to be your own hero, and your little girl or your little boy just
mm,
wants to be loved and accepted by you. And a lot of the pain that you're self feeling, it's because there's a disconnect between you guys, because you're an adult, a physical adult, yet your emotions are still stuck in an 8, 7, 6, 5,
mm,
whatever age-year old that you experienced something that you started telling yourself the story. So your job is to create flow between the two of you. This is why we can have an adult who's someone who looks like an adult, but their emotional mastery is of a 5-year-old. This
mm,
is why we throw tantrums. This is,
mm,
adult tantrums.
mm.
And I'm guilty of that, by the way. Like, I, I'm not different than anyone else. Trust me, I could only say it because, again, I was my first client. And so being able to accept it is everything. Yeah.
Mm. Do you have a background in transactional analysis?
No,
No. Okay. Have
never
you heard
even
of it?
heard of it.
No.
No.
Okay. So it's no, it's basically goes into like the child, the parent, and the ego. And like
Mm,
for example, like if you're like in an argument, like let's say with like boyfriend or whatever, friend or anybody, and the person's yelling, it doesn't make sense for you to yell back because then it will be child versus child. One of you
right.
has to be like the parent or like the ego or something to balance things out. Yeah, that's a therapeutic practice. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I tapped into that when I tapped into my soul because that was
Mm,
part of the work that I did. I was like the people in my life where I was struggling in relationships. What
mm,
I started to do is I would, we would both go at it. It was it was my broken inner, my hurt inner child and their hurt inner
mm,
child
mm,
coming at each other. And so what I stopped doing was feeding into that. I started to pause. And then I started to, and this is a process that I tell my clients. It's so funny because I guess I hadn't heard of it, but I put it into practice. It's like
mm,
you pause and then you
mm,
take a couple of deep breaths, and then you see the person who's angry, who's having the adult tantrum,
mm,
as a little kid who just
mm,
feels unsafe, unloved, judged, right? And then it
mm,
allows you to have more compassion because we have more compassion for kids than an adult who's sitting in front of us, right?
mm,
So this is why we want to attack. We feel attacked. Now we're both in survival mode. But when you learn to pause and just hold that space with love and compassion for someone who's having the adult
mm,
tantrum, then you stop feeding into that energy. And what that does is once you feed into the end, you stop feeding into the energy. That's what I said. It takes one person to transform for the relationship to
mm,
transform. Because if you're no longer feeding that energy, that person's going to have to level up to continue to communicate with you because now there's no if you stay here, you're not going to bring me down here so we can communicate because we're not doing this trauma bonding anymore. So I'm going to stay
mm,
here and now you have to meet me here,
mm,
right? And then that starts to create and change within the dynamic of the relationship. And I felt like the easiest thing when I was going through this process was being able to see the person that was in front of me
mm,
as a child. And I was
mm,
no longer, and then what that does was it is allow me not to take things personal. And
mm,
that's a huge thing. Like
mm,
not taking things personal, it's everything in this world
mm,
because everyone, when we realize that other people's, ways of being that are not in align to who we truly are, it's just their coping mechanisms from whatever they've
mm,
experienced in their lives. We can have that compassion and then we can move away. That doesn't mean you allow someone to disrespect you. That's why I said healthy boundaries and not enabling people is a part of the process.
mm,
And then you can, at that moment, if the person's too in your face, you can pause and you can say, you know what, I don't feel safe right now. I'm going to walk away. We can talk about this later.
mm,
There's different way of managing that depending who shows up. But yeah,
mm,
that was part of the work that I do. Interesting enough, I
mm.
had never heard of it. Now I'm going to look into it.
Yeah, it's really interesting. No, but something you mentioned is a lot of good things. I still haven't even finished my last thought, but no big deal. I'll get to that in a moment. As you keep talking, Armida, I have like thousand things keep coming up. No, but an example actually in my own life, and it took me some time to kind of like wrap my head around this is the way I respond to my haters. Okay. And actually, it happened like 2 minutes before the call. And something I've been just working on myself is it's funny that you mentioned it is the patience, or just not just patience, but just giving it some time. Don't
Right,
respond right away. Take a deep breath and kind of like see why they're saying the things they're saying instead of just, jumping at their throat because of my own ego, of my own.
right.
I love that you mentioned adult tantrum. So yeah, that's been something I've been working on. I would say I've gone better, but let's see how how tomorrow looks like. Now, earlier you mentioned that when you were mentioning about going to the gym and physically moving your body, but there's a research I just read literally last night. I'm one of those people that I read I read books at like midnight. Okay, I don't read them throughout the day. I read them like right before I sleep. So it's bad habit. But there's a research back in the days. I think it was like 1931 or something. The
Mhm.
researcher, I believe his name was Wernberg. He's the first scientist who came up with the solution or like kind of like the answer to cancer. And one of the things he mentioned is that moving your body, giving your body oxygen is actually what depletes and kind of like kills cancer from your body to even exist, or even Alzheimer's as well. So that's really powerful that you mentioned this because going to the gym or physically moving your body is more than just getting a six pack. Obviously,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Okay, I want a six pack too, but no, that's interesting that you mentioned this. Now, everything you mentioned about your daily habits and everything, it reminds me of something I read on your profile. You mentioned authentic living.
Yeah.
What does authentic living look like, and how can someone? right now who is, going through pain or they're not as balanced as yourself, Armida, how are they able to tap into their authentic living?
Wow, that's such a beautiful question because authentic living to me is really just showing up in your truth. It's really radical acceptance, first and foremost, for
Mm,
me. You have to fully accept who you are, the things you judge about yourself, the things you don't believe are loving about yourself, the things that you believe that are not good about you, right? When we have that judgment. Acceptance is what allows you to have authentic living because
mm,
when you have accepted yourself, now you can fully show up in your truth in the world. And when you do that, not only does it frees you to be you, but it also, because everything is energy, inspires people around you to be
mm,
them. And so that's what living means to me. It's just radical acceptance of who we are, like not judging ourselves and really allowing ourselves to show up in our truth and be vulnerable with ourselves. And that's what sitting in the fire does for you. It allows you
mm,
to fully connect all of yourself so that you're not going through the world, feeling like a victim. We didn't come here to suffer. We came here to thrive, to
mm,
grow, to discover more of ourselves. And the world is full of magic, but you can't tap into that magic if you haven't tapped into yourself because
mm,
you're the alchemist and everything comes through you. And so yeah, you're the magic. Everything begins and starts with you.
mm,
And we're our own observer. So I get to create my world, you get to create your world, and everyone gets to create their world. We're not, we're not helpless bystanders.
mm,
And so that's what authentic living, it's when you have that radical acceptance, then you get to tap into something deeper and bigger than you.
mm,
That's when life becomes fun because now you get to you learn that you're the cause and the effect of your
mm,
life. And how empowering is that to know that you can mold and like then you can life it's a big art project when you do that. And
mm,
there's no more freedom than I feel like feeling like your life it's a beautiful art project that you get to play
mm.
around with.
Art, life is a beautiful art project.
Yeah.
I love that quote. When I quote you on this, I will definitely give you credit for it. Okay, I love that. I love art. I'm not an artist, but
Neither
I
am
love
I.
it. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Now I love that you said self-acceptance. Why do you think people resist self-acceptance?
Wow, that's really it's scary because when you all your life
Mm,
you've been disconnecting to yourself and you've
mm,
been playing a persona to feel loved and
mm,
accepted. And now accepting yourself means I have to really fully look at
mm,
myself. And that can be scary. And that was scary for me too when I was going through this journey, like to be able to look at those pieces of me that I felt weren't good enough, to
mm,
be able to accept them, to be able to know that I am worthy and deserving of everything, love and acceptance, and whatever it is that I want in my life, abundance in all areas of my life, opening up to that possibility, it's possible for me. And so, if I am not congruent with with all of myself, then I'm always going to be fighting myself. And I feel
mm,
like a lot of us are afraid to do that because we're afraid of what's going to come up for us. We're afraid to really look within our soul.
mm.
Yeah.
Now, let's say somebody who is like I would say myself, I do drink a lot of alcohol and working through it myself in closed doors without telling people. But let's say somebody who, I say for myself, who likes to drink, and I'm radically honest with myself that, I know what I'm doing, or I understand what I'm putting myself through. Uh, would your recommendation, not just for myself in general, but would your recommendation be for somebody who does drink and like, I don't smoke weed and stuff, but for someone who does drugs, would you say for someone like that that they are in some way limiting their growth because of these toxins in their body, versus somebody who is not doing that and there's, like you mentioned, they're sitting through the fire? Is there a way to balance, taking recreational drugs or, and I'm not trying to put you like in a position,
No, no, no.
but
I love
recreational
that.
drugs or like alcohol, is it possible for that individual to still be able to do those things and still in some way be in the fire?
It's all about the intentions,
Mm,
right? So are you drinking? Is your intention for drinking or using alcohol? Are you using that are you using those tools you feel inspired to and maybe you're happy and you're
mm,
thriving and you're just like, you know what, I just wanna, relax a little bit more,
mm,
or I just like want to have a little bit of fun and socialize with my friends and have a couple of
mm,
drinks, right? So it's the intention behind it, right? That
mm,
really creates the difference. So I'm someone who I socially drink every once in a while. I could go months without drinking, and I
mm,
can sometimes have a drink on the weekends and two weekends
mm,
in a row. And there's no judgment on my part because I live my life in a moment to moment. And my thing is, what are my intentions? If I'm happy and I'm doing it socially to connect, and because I feel like it feels in alignment for me to do so in the
mm,
moment. If I'm feeling sad, depressed, and like off, my energy feels off, I don't drink and I don't want to do anything because then I'm using that
mm,
to numb, right? So there's a
mm,
difference. So that's why self-awareness is the key to success and emotional mastery, because
mm,
then you get to play around and have this huge, like I said, life is an art project, and now I get to sit with myself. Do I want what? Why am I doing this, right? What are my
mm,
intentions for this? And then the most important thing, then you have a choice. Then
mm,
when you ask yourself those questions, then you, okay, I have a choice, right? Do I
mm,
numb or do I allow myself to sit in the fire and feel the
mm.
pain?
Love
And
that.
the answer, it's on you.
That's true. I've been on both sides of the spectrum where I was doing it to escape, and I've done it also because, every time a client signs up, I always get excited. I'm like, I want to go get myself, a drink or something, not to get drunk, but just to get that buzz
Right.
feeling. It feels exciting.
So I'm guilty of it too. In
Mm,
2019, when I started my spiritual journey, my initial thing, my initial way of coping was
mm,
drinking
mm,
and smoked a little weed. I'm
mm,
very authentic, very real because I accept all of myself, and those were my coping tools
mm,
when I first started going through my spiritual awakening, because
mm,
I started to feel things that I had never felt before, and I
mm,
didn't know how to sit in the pain, right? And
mm,
how to sit in the fire. And so initially I was drinking and smoking and trying to numb what was trying to go be processed through me. And then I did that for a couple of months and realized that I was not making any improvement, that I
mm,
was still feeling the same way that I was
mm.
feeling before I started drinking and smoking, right? And then
Yeah.
I was like, and I went into a cocoon. I feel like
Mm,
when you start going through this process, there comes a time when you become aware of yourself so much
mm,
that life kind of pulls you into a little cocoon so that you could work on yourself. And so I
mm,
stopped going out and I stopped drinking and smoking, and I just started to sit with myself. And
mm,
that's when I started to really do the work, because not now I was allowing myself to sit in the fire. I was allowing myself to become aware of myself. And so yeah, so I've been at both sides, and that's what created the change, and that's what allowed me to be where I'm at right now. And from that space was when I started to, open up to possibilities, and then finding the coach and the program and the book that I needed to help me through my journey. But it was in that nurturing phase that
mm,
everything changed for me. So I've been on both sides as well. And I always go back to your intentions. Always be aware of yourself enough and ask yourself, like, what are my intentions for doing this? And you're going to get an answer. And then you get to
mm.
choose which one you want to feed, because we have free will.
Mm. Well, I appreciate your transparency. I feel like not yourself, you're really, really honest and authentic. I mean, obviously you're teaching it, but still, all other individuals who are teaching not what you're teaching, but they kind of do it to like save face. They don't say certain things in front of the camera. But I love the fact that, you're able to just be you and just be real. I love that. You don't hear that often. So I appreciate that. Thank you for that. I will say that this whole conversation, my hands are like clammy, not from nervousness. It just like is energy, and my third eye is like tingly. Okay, so I'm not sure if you're like feeling like energy expanding.
I am. My hands are clammy and cold, which is
Cold.
interesting. And I feel alive. This is when I feel the most alive, when I'm
Hmm.
connecting with people and
Awesome. Yeah.
really. showing up in my purpose and my passion.
Mm,
I could talk about this forever. Honestly, I could geek out on this because it's transformed my life. I've seen
mm,
it transform the lives of my clients. And thank you for giving me that feedback about being authentic. I mean, how can I sit here and say I'm a coach and I want to help you if I'm not being real and authentic with
mhm,
myself? I feel like that's what makes me an effective coach, that I'm
mm,
able to hold that compassion for myself. If I can't hold it for myself, I can't hold it for my clients. And then I can't help them have the transformation that they need, that they want to level up and
mm.
transform.
You are correct. However, there's other people in this industry who, they fake it till they make it, or they say certain things for marketing purposes. But I love that, you're able to tap into your core self and just be so genuine. I know for a fact that the
Yeah.
audience, watching this, they will appreciate that, everything you have mentioned is absolutely incredible. And I will admit that when I was sober, and I've been sober for like, not right now, but I've been sober for like, 30 days or whatever, it's so, I can't explain it. It's so magical. Like being sober is like its own superpower. It just I feel naturally
Right.
high and just things just come to me in a good way. And a lot of times I'm like, am I drunk
Hmm.
right now? But then I realize, no, wait a second. I'm completely sober and it's just a really, really, really mystical experience to just be that way. Um,
Yes.
Now I'm gonna go a little off topic in here. What's the difference between someone who heals and someone who stays in personal development loops for years?
It's the embodiment of the work, really.
Hmm.
It's the embodiment, right? Like someone who's really transforming and putting into practice what they're learning. It's what's going to create the transformation, because the transformation comes from actions. And
Hmm.
it's not actions that you take outside of you, it's actions that you take within yourself to get to know you, to become aware of yourself,
Hmm.
to become curious, to accept yourself. That's what creates the change. People who are stuck in development and are not changing is because they're logically learning everything, but they're not
Hmm.
implementing it and embodying what they're
Hmm.
learning. And the magic happens in the embodiment and the
Hmm.
implementation of the things that we're learning.
Hmm. It sounds like applied knowledge versus just theory. There's a lot of guys, I will just say for the dating community, that they watch 1,000 YouTube videos, they read 1,000 books, but after 10 years, they're still complaining about the same thing. Like they don't really do anything. They're always looking at the future, their past, and they're like, like stuck there.
Yeah, because they haven't taken the time to become aware of themselves and to
Mm,
see what inside of me it's creating this, right? That's where the
mm,
magic is. A lot of times when we're complaining, if we're complaining, criticizing anything, we're feeling like a victim to that thing. That's why we're complaining, right? So the
mm,
magic happens when you
mm,
become aware of yourself
mm,
and you can say, why is this showing up in my reality? That's where the
mm,
change happens. We have
mm,
free will. And so this is why self-awareness and then acceptance right after is everything, because you can't change the things you're not aware of. And if you're not aware that
mm,
you're the alchemist, not the victim of your life, you're going to keep being a victim until you finally realize that.
mm. Sounds like you are your own best doctor. When you say alchemist, I always think of that, like your own doctor.
Yes.
Mm,
You're your own best everything. No one else. I
mm,
tell my clients, I don't make decisions for my clients. I
mm,
help you see a different perspective so you can see what aligns for you, because
mm,
what's right for me might not be right for you. The work that we're doing is for you to connect so much to who you are and your soul that you can make decisions for yourself with clarity, with certainty, and with trust. But I don't have the right to make any decision for anyone,
mm,
because I could only make decisions for myself. And I'm a mom. And I had to make peace with that too. Like, I can't save my kids. I
mm,
can't dictate what they need to do because I'm not dumb. They came here with their own
mm,
purpose and their own lessons that they need to learn.
mm, mm.
Yeah.
The kids are so lucky to have you, Armida. Okay, you're so knowledgeable,
Thank
you
you.
have all these things, and like yeah, your kids are absolutely in a really good position to have you in their life. Because this like you're a superwoman, okay? This doesn't not
Thank you. That means
everyone
a
gets to
lot
be.
to me.
What did you say? Sorry?
Yeah. Thank you. No, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah.
That means a lot to me because as a
Hmm.
mom, we question ourselves. Again, I'm
Hmm.
not perfect. And I got to say,
Hmm.
there's times when I question myself.
Mm,
as a mom. And in those moments, I just remind myself like I'm doing my best and I'm showing up as authentically as I possibly can.
mm,
And I realized that my kids, I can talk to them till I turn blue, but
mm,
really how I show up, because everything is energy, it's what's going to help them
mm.
have the confidence and the
True.
authenticity that they need to be able to move forward. So
Mm,
just having faith and trust in that and knowing that I'm always just doing my best. And I have such a great relationship with them. They have no problem calling me out. If I'm out of alignment, my kids will be like very respectfully, like, Mom, you're doing too much. And I'm like, and I can laugh about it because I'm like, yeah, you're right. I am doing too much right
mm,
now. And I can laugh it off. And it's so wonderful because I didn't have that with my parents.
mm,
I was not, my voice was not heard, like I was a
mm,
kid. And so nobody cared to hear my voice and to listen to what I had to say. So I feel like that's working to create that relationship with my kids has been really amazing. I still question it. I think every parent does all the
mm,
time. But it's becoming aware. I'm saying like I'm doing my best. That's all I
mm,
could do. And I'm showing up as authentically and as compassionate and as open-hearted as I can.
mm,
And I have to trust that that's enough.
mm. Yeah, no, I love that. Now the question after you said this, and you don't, if you don't want to answer this, fine, just let me know. In your own relationships, romantic relationships, do you feel that, in some regard, you're like this, like, you're kind of like above, not above relationships, but since you have so much knowledge and wisdom and so much experience, how does that look like in your romantic relationships? Because in some way, I hear this a lot from men who, like let's say they date a therapist or psychologist. They're like, oh my gosh, she must be analyzing me, or she must already know all the answers. Like, how does that look in your romantic relationships?
I love that. I show up in my relationships completely authentic, open, and
Mhm,
vulnerable, realizing that I don't have all the answers, right?
mhm,
I keep saying it over and over, and I will keep saying we came here for growth and evolution. And I have to be fully accepting of myself and my partner and realize like I still have disagreements with people in
mhm,
my life. I still don't see
mhm,
eye to eye to them with them, right? But it's about owning my truth and holding space for their truth and knowing that we're in collaboration. And that could only happen if I'm aware enough of myself to realize that if I'm being triggered and my partner
mhm,
is doing something that is pulling me out of alignment, it's not their behavior, it's a belief I have
mhm,
about myself. And so using people, not using, but seeing people in my life as it's like they're a mirror to me, seeing them as lessons and people who are helping me become more aware of myself allows me to have that to show up fully open, knowing that I
mhm,
don't know it all and I don't know it all. And you know what? Relationships are the beautiful space for us to work on ourselves when we can see
mhm,
them as someone who's just a beautiful mirror to the things we need to work on ourselves because
mhm,
they trigger us. But why do they trigger us? It's not their behavior. And this is what I teach my clients. It's not their behavior that's triggering you. It's the belief you have about their behavior. And so when
mhm,
you can accept that and communicate from a space of not feeling like a victim where you're now pointing the finger, and now you're communicating about your feelings, being vulnerable and
mhm,
sharing, hey, when you do X, Y, and Z, it makes me feel this way. The person doesn't feel attacked, and it creates a space for people to work on things.
mhm,
And then when you do that, you're no longer a victim because now you have taken accountability for yourself.
mhm,
And then that allows the other person to do the same. And then that's where flowing magic and everything else happens. But
mhm.
trust me, my kids trigger me all the time, intimate partners, my parents still do things. I said I'm not perfect, right? I'm aware enough of myself to be able to hold that ground. And do I sometimes fall of grace and initially I react to the situation? Yes. But the minute I become aware, I pause and I
Mhm,
respond. I self-soothe and I
mhm,
respond.
mhm.
Yeah.
So true, so true. I learned about myself that I'm a jealous man, so I'm working on that. And some of the things you mentioned here, I'm like thinking like, let's see, like how can I navigate through that? No, that's it's really powerful. I will definitely like message you offline as well. Maybe like, like work with you. I'm serious, like I don't normally say this, but you're very knowledgeable and I'm honest enough to admit that, in some regard, you know a lot of things that I don't know. and I'm willing to, I'm a huge like nerd geek, I'm always about, I want to become better. When I meet somebody that clearly knows more than me. Actually, I just noticed the A on your necklace. I didn't even notice that till right now. Did you have that on the
Yes,
whole time?
Armida.
Yeah.
Yes.
You did? Okay. I honestly, I didn't even see it. Yeah, it was like locked into your eyes. I didn't see that.
No,
Uh,
thank you.
but okay, so but yeah, I will definitely contact you offline. I want to respect your time. Um, I have like two more questions for you. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. We can go. I blocked off an hour and a half just in case we ran over, so we're good.
Perfect. Okay, that's perfect. Okay. Now, what books do you recommend for, or what books, any like lectures, seminars, anything? What do you have in this journey and also life in general?
Okay. I love it. Thank you for that. I love that question because I love to read. I
Mm,
feel like that's one of the things that helped me through my spiritual journeys. I started
mm,
reading a lot and I started taking courses and I did hire coaches. But initially I started off with the reading and the courses. And I gotta say the first book that I always recommend, it's The Four Agreements by Don Miguel
mm,
Ruiz. Such a
mm,
great book.
mm,
And it's like hopefully I can remember, but it's like don't take things personal. Be impeccable with your words.
mm,
Oh gosh, I can't remember the other two. They'll come to me. But it's an amazing book that allows you to become aware of yourself, and that also allows you to really put into practice. If you choose to put it into practice, right? Because
mm,
you have a choice, but it allows you to really hone in on those things that keeps us stuck as a victim, right? And as long
mm,
as we're a victim, we're giving our power away because when we're a victim, what we're saying is that things outside of us need to change in order for us to feel happy.
mm,
And then we're always outsourcing our happiness. But
mm,
when you can take full accountability of yourself, then you can create transformation because you're not waiting to be saved or rescued.
mm,
So I feel like that book was really good for me to become aware of that. The other book is The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle. We all
mm,
know this is how I say like my spirituality and me staying sane is just a moment to moment thing. Like
mm,
it's a moment to moment decision and being aware of myself enough to be able to shift when I'm out of alignment. And we
mm,
talked about that earlier. The other book is The Alchemist, Paulo Coelho.
mm,
That's why I love like that book. It's amazing. Talks about the
mm,
journey of I don't want to like it's just a beautiful book. I don't want to like your readers and your watchers if they see this. It's just a great book about life's journey, but it's really about finding ourselves. That's all I'm
mm,
gonna say. And we really truly are the alchemist of our lives.
mm,
And then oh gosh, let me see. Another book that I liked for relationships, it's Becoming the One by Shayliana Ayana.
mm,
It's a beautiful book that becoming the one, but it's becoming the one for yourself because when you become the one for yourself, that's how you attract and align a happy, thriving, aligned relationship. So yeah, that's a great book as well. And I've read many of them, but those are the ones that are coming to me now.
mm. I love it. So The Alchemist, Becoming the One. Those are the two books I need to read. I wrote some notes down in the background. Now, any fantasy books like Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Warhammer?
No, I don't read any fantasy books because
Mm,
I'm so like my soul is calling me. Not
mm,
that I love watching the movies, but when I'm
mm,
reading, I really just want to read stuff that I'm being pulled to. And for some reason,
mm,
that's not something I get pulled to reading. So I
mm,
do a lot of like, spiritual reading and
mm,
spiritual books about spirituality and self-help. And I guess I always want to, I love learning from other people because it allows me to look at things from a different perspective and it
mm,
makes me a more effective coach because it gives me more tools into my toolbox and it helps me see things from different perspective and the magic happens from us being able to see things from different. If I'm a life and relationship coach, right? Especially
mm,
when I'm working with my clients, I have to tell them like I'm not here. I'm not picking a side. I'm in a neutral space. If I pick
mm.
a side, you guys better fire me because the relationship is doomed. Like I'm not
That's so
here
true.
I'm not here to enable neither one of you. I'm not enabling either one of you, and I'm here for the wholeness, what you guys want to create. It's your energy, his
Mm,
energy, or whatever, masculine,
mm,
feminine. And then in the middle is where the magic
mm,
happens. And my goal is to get you guys to go there.
That's really powerful. Now, last question for you is there any question you wish I asked you, but I have not?
Oof, that is a really great question. I like that. So I'm gonna say I'm gonna go with this. What comes into my mind is, and it's not like how to know whether you're living out of alignment. I know we talked a little bit about
Mm,
that, but a little bit like what energy, like on your day to day when you're becoming aware of yourself, the way that you get to know whether you're out of alignment or not is when you can ask yourself, am I making this, am I making this like, am I making this decision out of fear or out of love? I feel
mm,
like for me that changed a lot because when we're making decisions out of fear, we're not following our soul. We're following our ego and what we believe other people want for us. When we're making decisions out of love, we're making it from our soul, from our intuition, from our heart. And that's going to create an outcome that it's more aligned where you're meant to be in life. So I feel like that's one of the things like one of the first things I learned was asking myself, like, am I making any decisions that I was making? It's like, am I making this decision out of fear or out of love? And it could be like something that I'm eating. It could
mm,
be saying yes to, am I saying yes to someone while I'm saying no to myself, right? Am I trying to people please? Because that's a fear.
mm,
You know, when we're people pleasing, when we're enabling, it's always out of fear, right? And so being able to ask ourselves, like, just pause before you answer anything or you do anything, and ask yourself, like, why do I want to do this? Or and be really real honest with yourself and then choose. And the more you choose the things that are from love, the more whole and complete you're going to start feeling,
mm.
and the more you start connecting to your intuition.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow, that's deep. Okay, wow. I love that. All right, well, Armida, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, for coming to this podcast and giving me your time and, being really thorough with all your answers from the very start, from the first question to the end. You're like, okay, and you have said so many things where I have to go back and I have to rewatch it again so I can take some notes. Because as you were talking, I don't want to be
Oh.
like, taking notes on the side. I wanted to really listen. Okay, so thank you again. I'm serious.
Yeah.
This was really thoughtful and really meaningful. Is there any other comments you want to make, or is there how can people reach out to you if they want to work with you?
Awesome. So they can go to my website. It's Divine Growth Coaching is the name of my business. They can find me on social media. It's you can either find me Armida Abrio or you can go to Divine Growth Coaching on Facebook and Instagram. Although I am not very active on social media, I'm gonna be completely honest. So the best place would be my website. But either way, I will get the message. And yeah, and you can schedule a session with me. You can find out more information about me. I'm in the process, I might as well say this, in the process of launching a book. It's in the process of publishing. So spring 2026, there will be a book there that's my first solo book. I did a collaboration book before, but this one it's my first solo book. It's called Your Own Love Heals You. And the subtitle is Discover Why Your Love is the Only Cure to Your Pain and Suffering.
Mm.
And it's all about healing and transforming your heart so that you can have the life that you came here to live.
Hmm. Well, guys, I will definitely put this in the description as well. And when your book is released, please, please let me know, Armida. I love to buy it, and I will leave an honest review on Amazon as well. And yeah, I will, advertise, market it, in whatever shape or form. That's great. I'm so excited writing a book. That is
Yeah.
because, oh my God, it's exciting. Okay, like from my end, yes, I will definitely, definitely. It's going to be Kindle and hard copy or paperback.
It's going to be an audio, paperback,
Oh,
and
audio.
an ebook. So it's going to be in a lot of different options. I'm
Mm,
putting it out there because I want to, help people, and
mm,
that's my mission. And so that's just another way for someone to work with me without, directly working with me. And
mhm,
yeah, I'm excited for that book. That was the journey as well. It took me
mm,
2 years to write it. I sat on it for 2 years, and
mm.
then I signed with a publishing company last July, and now we're in the process, last minute, last editing. So sometime in spring 2026, it'll finally be released. I'm really excited for that.
I can't wait. I'm buying both of them, the audio so I can listen to sit on my hammock or on the beach, and also
Thank
the, hard copy as well. I love to, yeah, I will definitely get that. That's amazing. I love the
you.
title too, really catchy.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, well, Armida, again, thank you so much. And like I mentioned, I will send you a copy of this recording to you as
Yeah.
well. And we will definitely have to do a part two. Okay.
Yeah.
I held myself back. Okay. I had a lot of things I wanted to ask you, but at the same time, I wanted to kind of like not have a broad discussion. It was not broad at all. It was really deep,
Right.
but I wanted to tap into certain things, and then next time, I will dig in deeper, especially when it comes to, I love energy,
Yeah.
spirituality, all of those things, really, really powerful.